I never expected my life to split in two because of a single email. But there it was, sitting quietly at the top of my inbox, subject line in bold. Property and financial distribution, final draft. My stomach twisted. I hadn't even opened it yet, but I already knew what it was. I could feel the chill of betrayal crawl up my spine. How do you prepare yourself for someone you love turning into a stranger with legal intentions? I was in the kitchen of my new condo in Seattle, barefoot, holding a chipped coffee mug that still had his initials on the bottom, JM for Jake Miller. The irony was so sharp I could have laughed if I wasn't so close to crying. Jake had cheated on me. Not just a one-time thing, not just a drunken mistake at a bachelor party. No, he had maintained an entire affair for nearly a year with someone he introduced to me as his cousin's girlfriend. And now, after all the deception, the lies, and the humiliation, he wanted half of everything I built. My startup, my savings, my sweat, blood, and sleepless nights. And worst of all, he had the nerve to think he deserved it. Let me rewind for you. My name is Emily Carter, 32 years old, born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I moved to Seattle 5 years ago to launch my tech company, an AI-based client experience platform called Blinksoft. It started small, me, a desk in a tiny apartment, and a dream bigger than most people thought I could handle. But I handled it. I made it. My company was now valued at $12.4 million, and I had just been named on the 40 under 40 list. Jake came into my life 3 years ago, charming, persistent, and unexpectedly vulnerable. He was a graphic designer, freelancing between gigs, funny in a dry way, and talked about art like it was his religion. I thought he was the one. He told me he loved how focused I was, how I didn't need anyone but chose him. I was proud of that. I didn't notice how often he made jokes about being the house husband, or how he dismissed my stress with, "At least you don't have to punch in at 9 every morning like real jobs." I thought he was just trying to be funny. I didn't see it then, but it was all grooming. One night, 6 months ago, I came home early from a late investor dinner. The condo smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. Not mine. Not Jake's. Something floral and musky. I assumed he bought something new, maybe something I'd compliment. But there were 2 wine glasses in the sink. One had lipstick on it. I picked it up and stared. That was the first moment something clicked, a deep, cold understanding that something in my life wasn't right. But Jake was so smooth. When I asked, he said his cousin's girlfriend had stopped by to drop off artwork she was lending him for a client pitch. I wanted to believe him. That night, I lay awake, replaying every word, every pause, every little deflection. I told myself I was overthinking. 3 weeks later, I got a message on Instagram from a burner account. "Your boyfriend has been sleeping with my roommate for months. Thought you should know." Attached 3 photos. One of Jake walking out of a building with a woman. One of them kissing in a restaurant. One of them in my car. It felt like my skin didn't fit anymore. I couldn't breathe. My ears buzzed. I didn't respond. I just stared at my phone for 2 straight hours. Then I packed a weekend bag and drove to the Oregon coast, turned my phone off, and stared at the ocean for 2 days straight. When I came back, I found him asleep on the couch, Netflix paused, pizza box half open, like nothing in the world was wrong. I confronted him. He denied it, of course. He flipped it on me. "You're seriously believing some random Instagram troll over me?" He raised his voice. Not yelling, but sharp, cold. He acted offended. Said he was tired of always being accused, that I was too paranoid because I was too successful to trust anyone. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because at that moment, something in me shifted. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something colder. Calculating. Detached. I realized something important that night. Jake had no idea who he was messing with. That was 3 months ago. Now, I was no longer living with Jake. I'd moved out, bought the new condo under a shell LLC I created just for this purpose. He didn't know where I lived. He thought I was traveling for business still. He'd kept the old condo. And now he was sending legal requests through an attorney. demanding half of my Blinksoft equity, claiming verbal agreements of financial partnership, saying he helped build the brand. He literally included in his affidavit that his emotional support during our relationship was critical to the company's rise. I stared at the screen. My reflection in the laptop's dark edge looked like someone I didn't recognize. This man who slept in my bed, ate my food, laughed with my friends, cheated on me, emotionally manipulated me, and now wanted a slice of the life he never bled for?
No.
Absolutely not. I shut the laptop, walked to the window. Seattle's skyline blinked back at me, indifferent and beautiful. In that silence, a calm rose inside me. Jake wasn't just going to get nothing. He was going to regret ever underestimating me. From the outside, it probably looked like I was holding everything together. I still showed up to work like usual, heels clicking across the marble lobby of Blinksoft's new downtown office tower, hair in place, tailored black blazers, coffee in hand. I still gave presentations, closed contracts, and handled investor calls.
But inside?
I was sharpening every edge. Jake's demand letter had done something to me. Lit a fuse. Turned the silence of betrayal into a battle hymn. And I didn't want revenge just for the sake of it. I wanted precision.
Clean. Quiet.
Devastating. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, Megan Wallace. She was one of the best corporate attorneys in Washington, and someone I'd known since our undergrad days at Berkeley. I forwarded the email to her with one line. Let's make sure he gets nothing. She called me 10 minutes later. Emily, this guy has lost his damn mind. I know. She clicked her tongue. He really said he emotionally supported your startup? I sighed. Said, he let me use his iPad for presentations a few times. Oh, well then, she said with a smirk in her voice, let's just give him the whole company. We spent hours digging into every corner of our shared timeline. Megan combed through his name on every legal document. Nothing. Not a single signature on any of Blinksoft's filings. I had kept everything in my name, not out of mistrust, but because Jake always said, business stuff bores me. You handle it. Now, that indifference was going to cost him. He has no claim on Blinksoft, Megan confirmed, but he's going to try to play the emotional angle, implied promises, lifestyle expectations. You live together, so he might try a common law argument. I clenched my jaw. We were never legally domestic partners. But that won't stop him from trying to win sympathy in court. I had two options. Defend and destroy.
Or
outmaneuver and annihilate. I picked option 2. I started documenting. Every text, every expense he made on my cards. Every receipt I could prove was for my money, because Jake never paid rent. Never bought groceries. He used my Uber account, my Prime, my Netflix. I even remembered how I gifted him a new MacBook after his crashed. Suddenly, that generosity was being twisted into proof of shared finances. I needed leverage. So, I created it. One night, I called an old friend from a networking event, Colton Ramirez, a cybersecurity consultant with a sharp tongue and a discreet code of honor. Jake, ever install anything on your work devices?
Colton asked. No.
But he used my personal laptop all the time. I think he logged in under a guest profile. Colton paused. You still have that laptop? Yep. Bring it to me. 2 days later, Colton called. There's something you need to see. I met him at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. He handed me a flash drive. On it, dozens of screenshots from Jake's guest profile. He'd been logging into a hidden folder linked to a cloud account. And in that folder, photos. Explicit photos. Of him and at least 3 other women. Videos, too. Some dated back a year. But that wasn't the worst part. There were also emails, conversations between Jake and one of the women, bragging about how he was milking the tech chick for money until he could cash out. I'll ride this until I get what I'm owed, he wrote.
Owed.
Like I was some kind of paycheck in heels. I stared at the screen in disbelief. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was exploitation. Premeditated. Arrogant.
Vile.
Colton looked at me. You want me to wipe the files? I shook my head.
No.
I want to keep every single one. That night, I opened a new email account. No name, no links to me. I composed a message. Be careful how loud you demand money, Jake. You never know what files might find their way into court or public record. I attached 3 screenshots. Just enough to shake him. Just enough to make him realize he was playing in my world now. The next day, his lawyer called Megan. He wanted to negotiate privately. I didn't even smile. I just told Megan, not yet. Because I wasn't done. I began digging into Jake's life like an archaeologist hunting for rot. That's when I discovered something else. He'd recently applied for a mortgage loan, using my employment history as a partner to bolster his income claims.
Fraud.
Verifiable. I contacted the bank's fraud department anonymously and submitted the evidence. The loan was frozen. Jake would soon find out he couldn't move forward on his new apartment in the Arts District. At the same time, I started feeding tips, carefully through burner accounts, to a few online forums. Not enough to get him canceled, but enough to raise questions about his ethics and conduct in relationships. His freelance gigs began to vanish. Clients got cold feet. His brand started to crumble. But here's the thing. I wasn't doing any of it with hate. It was surgical. There's a clarity in betrayal. A kind of high-definition honesty. Jake wanted to destroy what I built for the sake of his ego. I just decided to beat him at his own game, with proof, precision, and poise. And then, as I thought I was done, a new thread unraveled. A woman named Kendra messaged me on LinkedIn. I think we need to talk. I just realized we were both dating Jake at the same time. Kendra's message sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. I clicked on her profile. Her face was familiar. It took a second before I realized where I'd seen her. She was the woman from the photo. The one from that blurry restaurant shot. The one with Jake. But in person, well, virtually, she looked different.
Polished. Smart. Corporate.
Not the kind of girl you'd expect Jake to be messing around with behind my back. Then again, I wasn't the type either, apparently. I replied. Hi, Kendra, yes. We should talk. Call me, here's my number. 15 minutes later, she called. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tightness behind it. Rage disguised as professionalism. Emily? Thank God. I didn't even know about you until yesterday.
I didn't respond.
I let her talk. I was dating Jake for about 9 months. I met him at a gallery opening. He told me he was single. Said his last relationship ended because his girlfriend was too career-obsessed to make time for him. I closed my eyes. He told me he was emotionally drained, that he needed someone soft, someone who made him a priority. Of course he did. Kendra kept talking. Her words turned faster, sharper. He moved into my apartment 2 weeks ago. Said he wanted a fresh start. I found a flash drive in his bag. That's how I saw photos of you too. I confronted him. He told me you were crazy, that you'd been stalking him. I laughed. Actually laughed.
Yeah.
That's a classic. She paused. There's more. And then she said something that changed everything. Emily, he told me he had access to your business passwords. Said he was going to copy your internal files and prove he helped design them. My spine straightened. What did he say exactly? He said he remembered all your login patterns. That he knew your old password habits, how you kept backups on external drives. He said he was going to print some designs from your first-gen prototype files and show them as co-created work. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just emotional theft. This was intellectual property theft. Blinksoft's core code, its original design plans, were everything. If he faked just enough evidence, he could convince a court to delay decisions, freeze accounts, or worse, force arbitration. And in the tech world, delay equals death. He was planning to go nuclear. The moment I got off the phone, I called Megan. I need a digital forensic team. Today. She didn't ask questions. Just texted me a name. Easton Red. Former NSA. Current ghost for hire. He met me in a secure office suite in Bellevue, one of those rented by the hour types with no paper trail. Easton was in his 40s, gray buzz cut, eyes like steel. You think this guy copied your IP? He asked, cracking his knuckles as he unpacked his hardware. He thinks I don't know he tried. I handed him everything. Old drives, laptops, a list of passwords Jake might have remembered. Within 3 hours, Easton had it. He copied a mirror of your 2021 build files onto a private cloud under a masked IP. It's encrypted, but traceable. I can connect the data path to his guest logins on your old MacBook. So, we can prove it? Oh, we can do more than that, Easton said. We can prove intent. I sat back, hands shaking, not with fear this time, but clarity. Jake hadn't just been a cheating manipulator. He had been grooming me, watching me, studying me like a project, preparing a safety net for himself in case things went south. He'd kept his mouth sweet while building a weapon, and he almost got away with it. But now, I had Kendra's testimony, Colton's screenshots, Easton's forensic logs. All I needed was timing. I invited Jake to meet. Neutral ground. A brunch cafe in Queen and where we used to go on Sundays. He showed up smug. Wore the same navy blue hoodie I bought him for his birthday last year. Like that meant something. And, he said, sitting across from me, all faux affection, I'm glad you're finally being reasonable. I tilted my head. Reasonable? He nodded. Look, we can settle this without lawyers eating all the money, right? You give me 35%, I walk away.
Clean.
No press. No pain. I smiled. You're right. We should keep this clean. He blinked. Wait, really? I slid a sealed envelope across the table. He opened it. Inside were 3 documents. 1. A printed email log showing him transferring confidential Blinksoft files. 2. A signed affidavit from Kendra, detailing his manipulation. 3. A draft of the legal complaint we were ready to file, for intellectual property theft, fraud, defamation, and harassment. His smile vanished. He flipped the pages like they were on fire. What the hell is this? This, I said calmly, is everything I need to make sure you not only get nothing, but that you owe me everything you've ever touched. He looked up. Color drained from his face. I can go to court, I continued. Or you can sign this NDA and walk away. No money. No noise. No jail time. But if you breathe another word about me in public or private, I will bury you legally. He didn't speak for a full minute. Then he whispered, You set me up? No, I said, standing. You built this trap yourself. I just turned on the light. As I walked out of that cafe, the sun was somehow brighter, the breeze sharper. I felt the first real breath enter my lungs in months. But I knew it wasn't over yet, because the final nail still had to be hammered.
And it was coming soon.
3 days after the cafe meeting, Jake officially signed the NDA. Megan handled the filing, sealing it with a clause so ironclad it might as well have been engraved on titanium. Any breach would trigger criminal proceedings and public release of all supporting evidence. It should have ended there. But Jake? He didn't know how to lose quietly. The first sign was subtle. A whisper in a forum thread for female startup founders. An anonymous post claiming some women only succeed by stealing men's ideas. It didn't mention me by name, but it quoted lines from interviews I'd given. The timing was no coincidence. The style was familiar, and the intention was clear. Discredit me without directly naming me. Megan advised we hold. Easton said, He's testing your leash. Then the second blow landed. A YouTube channel posted a video. The truth behind Blinksoft's founder. Whose code is it really? It was low quality, heavily edited, but it featured spliced screenshots, enough to spark rumors. Most people ignored it, but one potential investor paused a 6-figure deal, asking for clarity on your IP claims. That was my line. I called Easton. Track the source. Get me proof. It took him 2 hours. The account was tied to an IP Jake used months earlier at a co-working space. He had tried to be smart, used a VPN, bounced locations, but Easton was smarter. And this time, we didn't go quiet. I had 2 press contacts from a Forbes Women in Tech feature I did last year. I called one, Dana Park, sharp as hell, and known for exposing tech industry frauds. I want to go on record, I told her. But not as a victim. As someone cleaning house. She listened to everything. The files. The fake narratives. The smear attempt. Then she said, "Let's make this guy wish he never learned your name." The article dropped 2 days later. Founder fights back. How Emily Carter crushed a smear campaign designed to steal her company. It was detailed, factual, and armed with receipts. Jake's fake claims? Torn apart line by line. My legal rights? Explained in a way even internet trolls couldn't twist. The NDA? Verified. Kendra even agreed to be quoted anonymously, calling Jake a manipulative liar who treated women like his personal ladder. The piece went viral. Suddenly, the tide shifted. Where Jake tried to stain my name, he ended up branding himself. Brand stopped returning his emails. The mortgage company reopened their fraud case. One of the women from his videos messaged me anonymously. He said he'd ruin me if I told anyone. Thank you for standing up to him. But the real climax wasn't public. It happened in private, in a courtroom, because Jake broke the NDA. He tried to sell a memoir, a glorified pity manifesto, under a pseudonym to a second-rate publishing house. Megan got the tip. We filed within 24 hours. We had digital proof, time-stamped edits, and even screenshots of him boasting in a group chat about getting the last word. The hearing was swift. Judge Reynolds didn't even blink. "This is not just a breach," she said, her voice like a hammer. "This is calculated malice. You were warned. You were compensated by not being prosecuted. And now you have violated that agreement in full." She turned to his lawyer. "How does your client plead?" Jake stood, trembling. He looked at me. He tried that same soft, pitiful stare he'd used so many times before. But I didn't blink. He mumbled, "Guilty, Your Honor." The ruling? Jake was fined $100,000 in damages for the NDA breach. He was ordered to issue a public retraction under his real name. And most importantly, he was barred from claiming any involvement in Blinksoft in any format ever again. Not in interviews. Not in books. Not even in private pitches. It was over. Official. Final. Irrevocable. After the hearing, I walked past him in the hallway. He called my name. I stopped. "Emily," he began. I turned slowly. He looked like a ghost, exhausted, deflated, stripped of the arrogance he once wore like cologne. "I just wanted to matter to you," he said. I stared at him. "You could've," I said. "But you chose power over partnership, ego over love, theft over trust. And now," I leaned closer, "you matter to no one." Then I walked away. That night, I sat in my apartment, glass of wine in hand, moonlight pouring across the hardwood floor. Blinksoft had just secured its second round of investment. Kendra had joined a founder circle I hosted. Easton and Megan were now on retainer. And me? I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was free. Finally. But deep inside, I knew the price of peace had been high. And Jake paid every penny. It had been 6 months since the courtroom decision. 6 quiet, uninterrupted months. No emails. No subpoenas. No shadowy online threads. Just silence. I'd returned to my rhythm, coding late, mentoring young women in tech, speaking at panels that used to terrify me. Blinksoft had grown from a startup darling to a serious player in the AI integrity space. We'd even been approached for acquisition, though I wasn't ready to sell.
Not yet.
I had worked too hard to hand over my creation before I was ready. Before it felt finished. I was finally living without looking over my shoulder. Until that one morning. It was subtle. A letter in the mail, no return address, thick cream envelope, hand-addressed. I thought it might be an investor or a client, but when I opened it, I froze. It was a wedding invitation. And the groom's name? Jake Weston. Marrying someone named Claire Weller. No clue who she was. But the date was set, the location printed on elegant cardstock. The handwriting on the envelope, I recognized it. It was his. Sloppy, slanted. Same style he used when writing just because notes during our relationship. Only this time, it wasn't a note. It was a message. A final move. I shouldn't have gone. But curiosity? It's a venom. And revenge, it lingers, even after you've won. So I dressed in black, slick and simple like armor. Not to cause drama. Not to ruin the day. I just needed to see what kind of woman would choose him after everything. The venue was outside Seattle, vineyard style, with string lights and a long stone aisle. I stayed at the back, behind a column, hidden in shadow. The ceremony was tasteful, floral, classy. But when Jake walked down the aisle in that tailored gray suit, smirking, confident, entitled, I realized something. He hadn't changed at all. His bride? She looked young. Too young. Maybe late 20s, fresh-faced, eyes that hadn't seen the cruelty yet. She seemed sweet. Too sweet for him. The officiant began. He spoke about partnership and sacrifice and honesty. And Jake had the audacity to smile through it. I turned to leave, done with the theater, when a woman beside me whispered, "Can you believe he almost didn't make it down the aisle? Thought his ex was going to ruin it." I paused. "Really?" She nodded, eager to spill. He told Claire he used to date some obsessive tech founder who tried to sue him for money after he helped her business take off. My stomach twisted, not in pain, but in something sharper. Not anger. Inspiration. I turned and walked away, smiling. He hadn't moved on. He hadn't grown. He was still spinning the same old lies to stay important. But I had outgrown the need to correct them. Because now, everyone who mattered knew the truth. 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. An anonymous tip landed in my legal team's inbox. The publishing house Jake had originally pitched his fake memoir to, they were still trying to push excerpts, abbreviated versions repackaged under a different pseudonym. They'd renamed the main character, tweaked the timelines, and edited just enough to dodge plagiarism checks. But it was the same story. Same lies. Same theft. Again. This time, we didn't warn him. We filed immediately. The judge not only blocked the publication, but enforced every penalty clause of our original NDA. This included seizing digital royalties, freezing associated bank accounts, and publishing a court-mandated statement. The author formerly known as Jake Weston has been legally found guilty of breach of contract, defamation, and IP theft. Any statements made regarding Emily Carter or her company, Blinksoft, are false, misleading, and part of a documented smear campaign. It was published on the landing page of the site promoting the memoir. A single, damning paragraph. No edits allowed. 2 months later, I got a call from Kendra. She sounded amused. "You won't believe this," she said. "Jake's working at an outlet store in Redmond, selling Bluetooth speakers." I blinked. "That's not possible." "Oh, it is," she said. "My friend went in there. Said he looks like he's aged 10 years. She paused, then added, "You won, Emily." But I didn't feel like I'd won. Not because I wasn't happy, but because I'd finally realized he was never the prize.
Peace was.
Freedom was. And I had both. Months later, I stood backstage at a major tech summit, ready to give the keynote. I looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces, some young, some seasoned, all hungry for stories, for hope. And for once, I spoke without fear of being questioned, or watched, or manipulated. I ended my talk with a message I'd written for myself, but now shared with everyone else. Sometimes losing someone is the gift. Not because they're gone, but because you're free. That night, I got home, locked my door, and walked across my apartment in silence. A single envelope sat under my door.
Handwritten.
Familiar scrawl. No name. Inside was a photo. Me and Jake, years ago, laughing at some beachside bonfire. On the back, for words, "You were always better." That was it. No apology. No name. Just a small, private admission. Too late to fix anything, too small to make a dent. I placed it in the fireplace, watched it burn to ash, and whispered, "I know,